With all the new technology and the abundance of information on the web, you would think that buying or selling or understanding the real estate market would be easier than ever. But ask yourself one question. Now that you've done your homework and you think you know what's going on, what do you do next? Well, one of the things you do next is you recognize that there's different parts of the year where it might be advantageous for you to think about buying or selling. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's the best time of year for you as a buyer or a seller to consider moving forward with your real estate sale or your real estate buy. And there can be some real advantages to that. So we're going to get into that today specifically, tell you as a seller when probably the best time of year is to sell, and then a buyer also what's the best time of year to buy. And we're going to dig into that, give you some strategies, give you some tools. That's what we like to do on this blog. We do it every Tuesday at 10 a.m. We give you different tips. We created this blog to give you some information that you may not necessarily see or hear on the web, to give you a better rounded out feel for the strategy that you'd like to get involved in or plan to get involved in. And that's the biggest word that I want to get to today, is the word planning. Now, you've heard it many, many times. Practically any self-promotion or promo course that you've taken always talks about planning. And when we're talking real estate, there is some planning that should be involved so you can take advantage of the market. We're going to tear into that today. But before I do, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Stewart Fournier. I'm an 18-year veteran of the real estate world here in Los Angeles, more specifically the South Bay area. We represent the West LA area, the beach areas of LA, specifically Manhattan, Hermosa, Redondo Beach. We have I say we, I should introduce my wife. We're a team. My wife Randy and I have been in the real estate business for combined well over 35 years. And we've done short sales, we've done new builds, we've done new construction, I should say, flippers, we've done foreclosures, we've done short sales, we've done 1031 exchanges, we've done probate, we've done a multitude of transactions over our careers, and that was the purpose of this blog. We wanted to create a blog where we could talk about all these different subjects, give you some tips and actually some tools on how to be successful with your real estate transaction, whether you're a buyer or a seller. And what we like to do is tear it apart, give you, like I said, some tips. And so let me just break into it right away. Actually, a couple of what's the word I'm looking for? Lost it again. I'm going to skip over it. I lost my point. Something came across my screen. Anyway, let's get right into it. What is the best time of year? Or more generally, are there real estate cycles during the year? And the answer is yes, there are. Basically, the real estate cycles work like this. From the beginning of the year, January, there's a little bit of a turnout in terms of inventory. People like to wait till after the holidays to put their house on the market, and I'll get into why, aside from the obvious time constraints and that kind of thing. But they usually put their house on the market first of the year. If not, they usually, believe it or not, wait until Super Bowl. There's such a post-holiday feeling that sometimes the marketing, as far as people's ability to pay attention, people are exhausted with the holidays and they're not necessarily quick on the switch. So a lot of people have strategized to actually wait until after Super Bowl, because generally the season runs from January to June, touches in July, and then right around July things taper off, and August is typically a very dead month for real estate. Reason being, most people are out on vacation. Most people are getting ready for the new school year. They're moving, making plans and moving around. And so there's a lot more movement in August in terms of people, like I said, being on vacation and or moving into areas they've already pretty much decided where they want to be start of the school year. So August tends to be a very slow month. Then right after Labor Day, we tend to speed up again. A lot more inventory comes on the market between the months of September and mid-October. And then mid-October we start to taper off again. So those are your basic seasons. Those are the times when there's most of inventory. There's a large amount of the most amount of inventory during the year. And then of course when buyers are usually out. So let's get a little more specific about how you as a buyer or a seller can take advantage of that. So I'll start off with you as a buyer. Actually, let me back up and just say one thing. Congratulate yourself whether you're a buyer or a seller. If you're a buyer, congratulate yourself for being in a position to potentially buy your first house. That's really a big deal. If you've gotten to the point where you can afford the down payment, you've gone out and sought the loan that you want to put forth when you actually make an offer, if you've got all your ducks in a row, take a second and realize that this is really a huge moment. Buying real estate for the first time is probably one of the most exciting and rewarding experiences you'll ever have. So take your time, like I said, plan it out, but enjoy the fact that you're even in the position to do so. If you're a seller, guess what? You're about to realize a lot of work that you've put into the house, and you're going to get your return. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a return. So congratulate yourself on having paid your mortgage for a number of years, and now you're going to reap the benefits by getting some money and potentially getting even a nicer house. So enjoy the ride as much as you can, because there's a lot of stress involved, but just congratulate yourself for being in the position to make these choices to begin with. So let's get to buyers. What should buyers do respective of the season? Well, number one, obviously one of the things you want to do is put yourself in a position where you're not competing with as many buyers. So if you're following the season, if you're out there in the springtime and you're out with the crowd, you'll get a sense of it. You'll get a sense of it when you go to open houses and you see how many people are in the house. You'll get a sense of it when you inquire about the house to see if they've any offers. You'll get a good sense of what's happening in the market. Now, we've talked many times about what the market is on this past videos. I won't get into that. But seek out, get a sense of feel, and then see what your competition is. There is a competitive level for every price point. And when you go out and you're physically in the field and you're going to open houses, you'll get a sense of that not only from the amount of people that you'll see at open houses, because you'll be going from one to another and possibly even run into the same people. You'll also get a sense from the listing agent. And again, as I said in my last broadcast, make sure you engage with your listing agents to get a sense not only of the house, but get a sense of the market, get a sense of who your competitors are. And like I said, you'll get a sense of that by asking how many offers there are, how many people are in the field. And you know what? You can even talk to people that you've seen at other open houses that are shopping with you. There's no harm in that as well. Getting as much information as in any industry is always key. So make sure you do that. Now, what time of year do you find less competitive, less competition? Well, obviously, August and from mid-October to the end of the year is the best time for buyers to look. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, the obvious that I've already talked about just a second ago, and that is you're not competing with as many people. But more importantly, if a seller has their house on the market during the month of August and October through the end of the year, they also are experiencing a slowdown and experiencing a lack of interest during that period seasonally for that specific reason. Now, what that means in your particular area, of course, changes from season to season. But nonetheless, those are pretty strong variables that happen on a yearly basis. So you probably have sellers that are excited about the fact that there's any amount of attention during those months, because they are looked upon as sort of months that we're not seeing a lot of activity. So there's more opportunity for you there. So if I were you, I would definitely seek and be aggressive about looking during the months of August and during the months of the middle of October through December. Those are probably some of the best times you can look. respective of the fact that the owners are probably not getting very much attention. And here's one thing I'd also do. What I would also do is be super aggressive about your offer. Not, when I mean aggressive, what I mean is have all your ducks in a row. Make sure that you look not like someone who's just trying to take advantage, but someone who's sincerely interested. And when I talk about aggressive, one particular variable you might consider is actually only giving, when you place an offer, someone 24 hours to answer. In other words, if you don't have any competition and you're the only offer on the table, you have every right to ask for an answer right away. Typically on the contract it allows for 3 days once you make an offer for an owner to give an answer. But 9 times out of 10, whenever my clients make an offer, I usually have them request it and an answer within 24 hours. Now, a seller doesn't have to answer you in 24 hours, but what it does is it shows that you are very interested in the house. You would really like to know if this is at all feasible, based on your offer, of course, and you have all your ducks in a row, and there's nobody else really making an offer right now. So asking for an answer within 24 hours sends a signal not only to the owner but the listing agent that you should be somebody that should be paid attention to. So don't be afraid of that. You know, the patience level of the seller during the months of August and during the holidays is pretty low, but what I'm suggesting is actually you take advantage of that, because maybe they'll make a quicker decision than they even thought they might. So don't be afraid of that. Like I said, make sure you have all your ducks in a row. And make sure that when you make an offer, you obviously have your loan situation put together. And then I would do an extra step too. I would also offer when you make your offer, and you're not required to do this usually in the contract itself, but I would go one step further and actually provide the information about your bank accounts that show what your down payment will be. You don't have to reveal the contents of your bank account. You can simply black out all the information that's not pertinent to what you're doing, but show them that you actually have the down payment, that you're ready to go. Again, you're taking advantage of the emotion of a seller who may not have an offer, who may be frustrated, and now things have even gotten slower during the months that they're looking. So those are my tips as respective of a buyer. As a seller, what does it mean to you to be, what considerations should you take into account as far as the season goes? And for a seller, this is especially important. Now, obviously, the thing you don't want to do is put your house on the market during the months of August and during the holidays. Those are the toughest months. And I'll talk in a second about what you can do if you have to put your house on at those times. But let's get into why you probably would want to not plan on doing that. And the obvious reason is that's a time that those are vacation times. Those are times when people just assume that there's not much going on, and even buyers are reluctant because they think there's no good deals. I'm going to wait till there's a whole lot more inventory on the market, then I'm going to go out and look. And that's what you're going to run into. If you have to sell your house during those periods, if, for example, you put your house on in September, and by mid-October you haven't been able to sell your house, it's not a terrible thing to take your house off the market during the holidays. And the reason is that people will understand. Listing agents simply explain to people that they're taking it off for the holidays. It's perfectly understandable. No one places a negative on your house. Now, if your house is overpriced, that's a whole different subject. We've talked about that before. But taking your house off during the holidays is not a bad idea, actually. Waiting for January to come around and putting it back on is totally acceptable. It happens all the time. Obviously, you have to do the math here. You're going to if you do have a set period in time in which you're going to sell your house and it's going to cost you to have it on month after month, you have to factor that in as well. But that's obviously a math problem for you, and I would take that into account. Now, optimally, the best time to put your house in the market, as I said before, you can put it on in January. That's perfectly fine. People are still looking in January. But there seems to be an influx of more energy, more vibe during the during the springtime, when people are looking forward to planning before they're going to put their kids in school that September. So that's when you'll find most people nesting. That's when you'll find most people planning ahead and wanting to get their purchase done before the beginning of the school year. So that's why, for example, we see most inventory. That's why most people that plan out exactly what they're doing as far as their listing goes tend to want to put it on in the springtime. Let's see so we've talked about considering the month that you've put it on. Obviously, January through mid-July is the best, and then if you can't do that, wait until after Labor Day, put it on in September, and then hopefully you can sell it by mid-October. Okay, now what if you just don't have the opportunity to plan? You have to sell right away. Chances are that's because you have a job moving situation, well, that's the main reason. The biggest reason is people are moving. Or there's a family situation and you need to move on. So what do you do in that situation? What if you have to put your house on during the month of August or during the holidays? My advice, and this is something that's a little hard to hear, because it sounds as though you're going to have to pay a price for it and you're going to get less for your house, and you're not. Let me explain what you should do. What you should really consider doing if you need to sell your house either during the tough season, during the tough months, or if you need to sell it quickly, underprice your house in accordance with fair market value. Now, we've talked about fair market value before, and so I won't get into that. Please look at a previous blog that I've done on that, but consider underpricing your house, and here's the reason why. Most houses that are underpriced garner the most attention quickly, especially nowadays with the speed in which the internet is giving people information. I've said it many times on this show. Today's most expensive commodity is no longer information. Today's most expensive commodity is the amount of attention that people pay to your listing. And so when you underprice your house, the market will know. Sophisticated buyers will know that you've underpriced it, and what you will do is create a fervor of people that are going to come over to your house right away and show interest, and then you put those people in a position to have to compete with one another so that you possibly get fair market value fairly quickly, if not maybe a little bit over that. Again, creating a competitive atmosphere for your house is the most important thing you do to get maximum value. And I've gone about 18 minutes now, and I need to cut it off today, but we've talked about that many, many times in the past. So again, real estate can be seasonal. Real estate buying and selling going on all during the year, but these are some of the things that you might want to consider, some of the things you might want to plan out. So again, we do this every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And we're happy to take your questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the comments section. I'm happy to address them. If you have a subject matter you'd like me to cover, I'm happy to do that. One last thing before we go, please consider our giving our free app. Shouldn't say consider, we're actually giving a gift today. Our free app that allows you to take a picture of any house in America and any house in the country. Just taking a picture, you'll get a value of that, the value of that house, just for example on Zillow. But this particular application is Zillow on steroids. Zillow and Trulia are actually old school now, believe it or not. You can get, once you take a picture of the house, you get a value, you get information about the houses next door to it, some public information, you'll get history of the house, it's when it was last sold, the schools in the area, that are connected to the house, what their ratings are. I think you even get a plot map. You get a lot of information just by taking a picture of a house, and that's all there is to it. So consider downloading that app. All you need to do is download the link that I'm going to put below this video, and we get your email address, send it to you, you're all set. And the best news is that on that particular app, if you're looking, you can talk with us right on the app, real time. We won't see you on the app, but if you ask us a question, then we'll know that you're on the app, and we're happy to answer. And this is anywhere in the country. We have a network of realtors actually throughout the world, and we're happy to help you in any way we can. So I'm going to cut it off there, running a little long. Bye-bye, everyone. See you next Tuesday at 10 a.m.